What's up, human beings? My name is Damon Samuels, and this is where the discussion begins. In the next 3 to 5 minutes, I'll start the conversation around sex, and more specifically, the question, what is the purpose of? At the end of the video, hopefully, we could start the real conversation with your comments, because that's where the discussion begins. We need to have a discussion, then we act. So that's how things go. So come on, guys, let's do this. Sex, the word sex, can be used in two ways. Way number one is to make the distinction between male and female. We're not interested in that today. Push that aside. What we're talking about is the eroticism, the sexual act, the behavior. And we'll try to find out why that's so strong, why the urge, the sexual desire, the urge is so strong and sometimes problematic. So, I bet you didn't know that in medieval Europe, and I always go back to Europe to kind of exhibit how much they have influence over the way we think in the West, and we are living in the West. And maybe if we understand this, we could maybe think critically and sift out the foolishness that they've taught us and that's so deep in our psyche, and we could move forward as a people. So bet you didn't know that sodomy in medieval Europe was defined as a sexual act that's not between a male and a female and is not in a missionary position. So anything that's not in a missionary position, that's not between a male and a female, was considered sodomy, and it was illegal. So in essence, you could be killed for a backshot. Yes. Now, if we go back to say, smart people, PhDs, guys like Sigmund Freud, Austrian physician, psychologist, father of psychoanalysis. So just given the credentials, you could see that pretty smart guy. Why would a guy like this spend his whole life trying to find out the effects that sexual urges have on our personalities? And that's what he did. The theory of psychoanalysis is rampant with ideas about sex. Now, this begs the question, what is the purpose of sex? Now, if you ask a lot of people this question, what they'll say is, firstly, oh, have sex to procreate, meaning to have kids. Now, we see that that's nonsense, because a lot of sex that we have, people are having sex right now, and they have nothing to do with wanting to have kids. As a matter of fact, if some people find out that they're having a child, they're probably upset. And we also do sexual acts that has nothing to do with procreation, like oral sex, anal sex, etc., etc. That has nothing to do with having kids. So we see that that's not true. The next thing that they might say is, I have sex because the pleasure of it. If that were true and we wanted pleasure, we can pleasure ourselves, no? We can masturbate. So why don't you masturbate? It's an easier way. You don't have to go through the nonsense of trying to find a partner, because sometimes that's difficult. A lot of people who had sexual desires have no partners. And, they could easily pleasure themselves, but they go out there and they try to seek a partner. And moreover, a lot of people try to pay for it. So money gets involved in the sexual act. If it was so important about pleasure, you could just pleasure yourself, and that would be cheaper, wouldn't it? But no, that's not what it is. So the idea here is that there's something more to sex than trying to have kids and trying to seek pleasure. And what I'm here to suggest is that sex is an interpersonal idea. It's something that stems from us wanting to be with other people, and human contact is really important, which means that sex is a social construct. Yes, everything we know about sex has been taught to us. So I'm not talking about the desire, because that becomes psychological after a while. I'm talking about the idea of it. So because of that, what sex is and what we're searching for with the idea of sex is human contact. So we see where we get to a point where we don't want to be alone, but what we do is channel that energy into the sexual energy. So we think that we're searching for pleasure, for example, and it's not there. Because if you have sex, and a lot of us have, we'll see that you want to pleasure yourself, the desire is so strong, you get so horny, so to speak, and then you have sex, and within 3 to 5 minutes the feeling comes back. So it will go on to infinity if that's what you're really searching for. But what happens is that when you find a person that's so amazing and you have amazing sex with that person, the sex itself is off the chart. It's amazing because it's a person that's important. So the idea is that we seek human connection behind this whole idea, this whole facade of sex. And the sooner we understand this, the more balanced we'll be as individuals. When we're balanced individuals, that's when we're at our most optimal point in this society. So hopefully you understand the idea I'm trying to push forward. Now, if you feel like you can debunk it, go ahead, comment. Now, like it if you do, share it if you agree or disagree. And at the end, we need to comment and we need to start the discussion. So remember, taking the high road can never lead to low places, because even today, David would have slayed Goliath.